Good afternoon and welcome everybody to our Zscaler webinar. My name is Mark Stähli. I'm co-CEO at Avantec and I'm responsible for the Zscaler portfolio here in the company. Our goal today is to give you a complete overview about the Zscaler platform, their vision and roadmap, and how Zscaler can help you to improve or to enable you on the road to the cloud. Avantec is Zscaler partner since 2009, actually from the first hour. The story, how we have pitched Zscaler in these years has changed over time, and that's what I would like to show you as an introduction to this webinar. So 2009, it was really hard to sell Zscaler Cloud solution to Swiss customers. So when we started, we had the problem that there was no cloud awareness in IT. There was no trust in a web proxy being as performant as it should be for all the activities that are necessary, and Zscaler was a no-name. So when we started, we tried to keep the message to the customer as simple as possible. So we talked about a managed web proxy to have it more easy in the IT operation. We talked about the central policy and reporting that is possible for all the sites of the companies and all the mobile users independently from which location and device the user wants to access the internet. So this helped us to win the first customers in 2009. A few years later, we tried to focus a little bit more on security because cloud solutions can offer you more security because they have a lot of technology in parallel running. So they have a lot of antivirus solution running or a lot of third-party feeds about security or incidents or whatever. So Zscaler, for example, is having more than 50 security feeds from many companies that are combined together for having a great security experience in the cloud. One of the main arguments, of course, was the protection of mobile users. Mobile users usually were not protected by the in-house proxy solutions, and this was one of the most important things to talk to customers about. And later on, Zscaler also integrated the sandbox solutions to have even more security against advanced threat protections or advanced threats and persistent threats. 2 years later, 2014, we realized that one of the biggest issue or demand of our customer was to have local breakouts. Local breakouts can be very important. It gives your users in any country, in any region, better performance. It gives you access to local content, and the biggest issue here, of course, is the huge cost companies spend in MPLS or VPN connections that can be reduced massively by using Zscaler and having local breakouts all over the world. In 2016, there was a new topic that we tried to use as a story. It was more focused on hardware replacement. Of course, already the web proxy solution from the beginning was designed by Zscaler to have no footprint or as few footprint as possible. But Zscaler started having a next generation firewall in the cloud, which made it possible, in particular for remote sites, for smaller remote sites, to have a perimeter without any hardware. So you could replace your firewall there and your web filter there with the Zscaler Cloud solution, having only a simple router to be replaced, to be managed, or today we probably talk more and more about SD-WAN devices. Another story came up probably 12 to 24 months ago with Office 365. Office 365 is growing a lot here in Switzerland and also in Europe and all over the world. But still many companies have performance problems using Office 365, probably because they don't have local breakouts. But there are other things that Zscaler can help with Office 365. They have best connections with the data center from Microsoft. They offer a module called bandwidth management that allows you to prioritize web traffic that is productive. So, for example, Office 365 over any not so productive web traffics, like, for example, any social media or media streaming. One-click configuration is something that is really nice because you have to do a lot when Microsoft is changing any IP addresses, so you have to do this on your own. But if you take care that all your traffic goes over Zscaler, Zscaler can do this in the background and helps you a lot in terms of administrative efforts. So wrong direction, so back again. So 2018, we have a new topic. It's called Secure Network Transformation, and I'm really happy to have Florian Hartmann here in the call. He will tell you more about this. Let me just go through one last slide about Avantec. So what is Avantec offering besides Zscaler? Historically, we are very strong in email security, web security, and network security, for example, firewalling and remote access. But today we strongly focus on endpoint security as well, so the whole bunch of next generation endpoint security solution and approaches, or cloud security. So with cloud security, I mean how can you secure your Office 365 environment and how you can improve the security of your Microsoft Azure data center. So that's from my side. To the beginning, a few administrative things just to finalize. On the right side, you can see a lot of windows. You can use the chat window or the question answering window to put your questions in. So we will collect all the questions and answer them at the end of the call. And if you close your application, there will a feedback form pop up, and that's important for us. So we really like to have your feedback. So please give any inputs about improvements for the feedback, or if you have any follow-up or want to have any follow-up with Avantec or an engineer of us, please write it down in the feedback form. So that's from my side. I would like to introduce Florian Hartmann. He is Zscaler Sales Engineer for our region here. I'm very happy to have him here. He will talk about 40 minutes about the Zscaler story, about the big picture of Zscaler. Thanks, Florian, and the stage is yours.
Yeah. Hi all. So here's Florian Hartmann. Thanks a lot, Mark, for the introduction, and we can see a long history together with Zscaler and all our customers and the message changing. And basically, it's similar to what we have on our slides. And the company was founded, beginning of 2008. So 2007, our founder was in a garage and thinking about this idea of security in the cloud. So it was 2008, and 10 years later, so 2018 we are now. And for the ones that did not see some messages, we just got public last week, and happy to work with our customers on new security things. But in general, I think the clear message from Jay and from the beginning is really similar. But as Mark said, we couldn't do this messaging 5-6 years ago with the intents, because it was kind of too far away from many customers. But let's look into what we have now, what Zscaler is offering, and the big challenges and shifts in our industry. So that's, let's say, every 10-20 years there's a big shift from old mainframe systems, later on driving to internet, mobility, and using networks, etc. And then, of course, there's more and more in mobility and cloud, and that's the big topic is about using cloud services, and of course customers and employees are more and more on the road, and how to secure our environments when the users are out of the network and using services. So the mega trends, which we call it, or the big topics currently are in the four buckets of network, of applications, business, and another one is malware or the real security. As we are in between network and security with Zscaler, we are often just part of a van or new network design, and then someone asks, hey, how can we put security in this new scenario? As you can see on the left, there's MPLS versus internet. More users are using LTE connections going direct to cloud applications. So all about changing networks based on access to the internet and based on access to applications. And the question is then, what about securing these users? And of course, if we look into the malware and look into security topics, it's about adding more and more traffic about SSL, which costs a lot of hardware, costs a lot of processing power to check into the SSL content. Everything is kind of a 0 day. If we check our platform every day, less than 1% of all malware is really seen from a typical antivirus signature. So there's a lot of from botnets about this and that, so different types of malware, but it's more and more about attacks that are specific to customers. So that's why sandboxing and other technologies are more important than years ago. And of course, if you are working everywhere and you can't trust the network, you need to do this with different things such as an endpoint security and a cloud security solution that sits between your users and the applications. On the other side, megatrends, or let's say big shifts, are moving applications into the cloud, such as Microsoft Office into Office 365, Exchange servers, etc., Skype for Business, but at the same time moving your own applications into Amazon, Azure, and maybe Google as well. So shutting down smaller corporate data centers, moving into the cloud, or consolidating, doing some outsourcing, and still saying, how can I trust the data and how can I securely access this data and applications, of course. Another one is then the business type, where the user is always happy to have the best experience. They want to choose their own technology, kind of bring your own device. If I'm not allowed to do this website, I use my own phone and I check this website. So what about content filtering? Is that still the main part, or can your users just use another device to go to this website? It's not really about the security portion of the accessing websites. One moment. So more and more our users are moving to co-working spaces. They are working at possibly at airports and so on. So the users are somewhere on the planet and not just in our office. And at the same time wanted to access our own internal applications, but applications such as Office 365 and many others as well. And it's not about like here with talking about Facebook, Dropbox, and so on. I mean, that's of course a topic. How do we want to secure our company from sending files into Dropbox? But on the other side, it's really about using many software as a service and other platforms in our company. So it's about AWS, Office 365, and so on. So as we see from Zscaler since years, it's really about, it's not new, it's not from starting in 2008, but even large enterprise customers, such as one of the biggest car manufacturers worldwide, for example. 2 years ago, they said, we don't want to go into cloud. We don't do anything in cloud. And now we have our projects. They are doing Office 365 and so on, and moving into cloud. So it's not new, but depending on the customer, whether it's manufacturing or any other industry, it's all moving in the same direction. So within many years, we built our corporate network, we built our devices with IDS, IPS, and so on. We have to maintain it. Then there's more and more SSL traffic. So we see in a lot of our accounts from bandwidth or gigabyte of traffic, we see that up to 70% of internet-bound traffic is SSL. So depending on if it's Office 365 is used, because then it's mostly SSL, and even YouTube and Google are SSL traffic. So if we want to talk about our own internal infrastructure, we have to add more and more devices for SSL inspection and so on. If you think of Zscaler as a software as a service or security as a service, we just take care of this, and we will have, let's say, a security service in the cloud. But still, the main topic is securing your users, no matter if they are at HQ, at a mobile hotspot, or somewhere, and that they connect, let's say, to all services, from public services to internal applications. So it really doesn't matter where the user is. It's not about the network security. It's about the user that is allowed to use this application, and mostly over the internet. So in the old days, we had the typical DMZ. We had our outbound on inbound stack. So outbound from typical content filter, antivirus, URL filter, and we added more and more boxes such as sandboxing, SSL decryption box, and so on. And as you saw from Mark, we added these features in our cloud as well, and added it in our messaging, and adding more features. And for example, the current version has more and more features into DLP. And so there's a lot of things where you could add more and more boxes. And on the other side, on the right, you can see the inbound stack. So that's outbound, and of course going in from a VPN through load balancing, DDoS, your firewall, and then you go into the internal firewall, and at the end, this user with this IP address is allowed to use SAP on the internal network. So it's a typical design. It's quite some years old, but it's more and more complex, and you will see some slides where that might be 20, 25 hops for just one IP packet to go through the full stack, just from your user into the internet or the way back. And that's very typical from the site. It shows the typical network security perimeter. You can see the MPLS links, the routers and stuff. And typical in large enterprises, you would see 3 to 5 outbreaks to internet. So you build your full stack with proxy, AV, and so on, inbound and outbound. But then your users are moving out to coffee shops, airports, and the applications are moving to the cloud as well. So for example, one of our customers, GE, said, so around 70% of all workload, all data center space, is moving into cloud data centers. So moving this away means all this traffic, so 70% of traffic from users to applications is moving all the way to internet-bound connections. Office 365 is built to be accessed via a direct internet connection. And then, of course, if you're moving more and more applications there, the inbound way it's similar. The statement from Siemens. So just to let you know, largest customer currently is not GE. It's nowadays it's Siemens as the worldwide biggest customer from Zscaler, and they really have the same mission. They are happy with Zscaler in the direction and say it's the internet will be the new corporate network, and they have a full strategy on we don't trust our internal LAN, our internal network. It's just about it doesn't matter if the user is on this type of network or if the user is somewhere else. It's identifying the user, identifying the client and the user itself, and then allowing internet access and access to internal applications. So when we think of small products, we think about proxy, antivirus, and so on. But the idea from Zscaler is really to enable you as a customer to move into these new network designs and enabling you to network and application transformation. So one big part is securing your users to internet, and the other one is application transformation, where we really can help transforming applications into cloud data centers such as AWS, Azure, and helping to have a secure connection from your user to these applications. So it's direct to internet, it's checking about the users and connecting users to applications. That's our strategy. And as you can see here on the left side, the way out is called Zscaler Internet Access, and we had in the past the Zscaler proxy service and so on, but it's Zscaler Internet Access, and on the right side it's Zscaler Private Access for inbound traffic. But it doesn't mean inbound only into your data center. You can spin up and start these connectors and private access everywhere, like AWS, Azure. So inbound into your internal applications, wherever they are. And so when we do these architecture sessions, when you think of new designs together with our customers, that's the goal. It's not about picking single point products. It's about helping with our partner and architects to think of new architectures and the way going forward, and hopefully that fits in your cloud first or cloud strategy to help with users going to internet and public applications. So Zscaler Internet Access, outbound traffic. Here it shows 45. Some others show up to 50, 60 thread feeds, where we have lots and lots of different feeds from users to open source and commercial thread feeds, which we include in our cloud. And it's the way being out. As you can see here, it shows SD-WAN and Office 365 as typical use cases. So we work with many SD-WAN partners such as Velo Cloud, Riverbed, Citrix, and some others, where they integrate fully with our API. They integrate with creating policy, and they can, for example, ship these small SD-WAN devices to every location, and then they create an outbound tunnel with all ports and protocols to Zscaler. And so then we have our peering with Microsoft. We send the traffic to Office 365, and of course we can send it to all other services in the cloud and on the internet as well. Private access as the part for traffic for your internal applications. We started with the product around 2016 very slowly. 2017 last year we had some first proof of concepts, and currently there's more and more interest in having a full solution. As we can see with our partners such as Avantec that the Zscaler app is used more and more for mobile users. So first using Zscaler for your offices and branch offices, and then using Zscaler app for mobile users. And as you have already the Zscaler app for secure internet connection, you could use this Zscaler app and the authentication part, which you might have with SAML and so on, to use the same environment to connect from your users, iOS, Windows, and so on, Android, with Zscaler app to the cloud. It will check if your user, which is authenticated, is allowed to go to this internal application, and it will direct you to your own internal data center or to infrastructure as a service data center. I think Zscaler Private Access always needs a real demonstration, and we are happy to do this. And we have a live demo and a kind of a validation feature which takes place for 7 days. So if you request from your partner in Zscaler this demo, we can allow this, and then you can see the real benefits, such as users are not on the network. You will never see any IP address of your network. The apps are not really visible. It's just doing a DNS resolution on the client, and if based on policy he is allowed to do this, he can then connect through the connectors and so on to the application. So there's always just a connection and a per application TLS tunnel based on policy and configurations. Of course, one is VPN replacement, but I think one of the big use cases we use currently is really access to cloud applications, such as internal applications hosted on AWS and Azure. So we work closely with Microsoft and AWS. I met several cloud architects from Microsoft and AWS in Zurich, in Geneva, to talk about customers and customer use cases. And of course, another one would be mergers and acquisitions. As you might know, if you have a merger, you have two different networks. Typically, both have a /10/something network. With Zscaler app and this concept, you are never on the network. So it doesn't matter if both have the same IP address. The connector will connect you to the application. So it's we have some good reference stories about using it for any kind of the mentioned use cases. So in general, as let's say the first overview, Zscaler enables for the full secure IT transformation. It's about app transformation or applications moving to the cloud. It's about security transformation, security devices into the cloud. And of course about the network and the WAN setup together with our SD-WAN partners and other technologies, moving to a different network architecture. So I think it's a kind of a bold statement from Gartner, but saying so the typical DMZs and legacy VPNs based on new designs, based on digital business, are kind of obsolete and will move away in a case. So that's a statement about how our networks will transform. So before going into internet access and private access in a bit more detail, are there already questions, or can you think of questions? And let's say within next 20 minutes, you can write them down into the chat. Mark, anything from your side?
Not for now, Florian. Thanks. Everything okay? Just go on.
Yep. So as you can see here, it's just one example from a real customer. Typical best of read. So nothing about the different vendors here and talking about this feature and that feature. But if you can see this network and if one user is just opening one web page, in this environment it took 28 hops, and it's a lot of latency, a lot of configuration problems and high availability. Everything might be at least double for high availability and so on. So it's a lot of hardware, and we know some customers saying we don't want to add any kind of hardware in our DMZ. It should be somewhere managed for us. So history from Zscaler, just as a brief overview, as it reflects pretty much what Mark had already on his slides, as Avantec is a long-term partner in Switzerland. It's about Zscaler mobile solutions, about sandboxing, cloud next generation firewall, and then Zscaler private access and so on. And it's adding more and more capabilities to have a full stack, and we are adding in different areas from patient zero features and sandboxing to DLP features, which we have the next upcoming 8 weeks in our platform. So it's growing more and more to have one-stop shop to have in the cloud your security and point any kind of traffic to Zscaler. It's not about sending us port 80 and 443. We have more and more customers sending us all ports and protocols to Zscaler. So bit too fast. So internet access, you have your real-time policy engine. We can do demonstrations. We have bi-weekly from Zscaler demonstrations, but we can offer with the partner, of course, the new UI and so on. And then we can show all different aspects from threat prevention, access control, and new features such as the cloud application control, DLP, which is all part of one UI, and there's just, let's say, one line of a log file for every single transaction. So you will see directly in which category it is, if it was blocked by antivirus, if it is in this category for DLP, and so on for every single user. And we can send it then into our analytics, but of course sending it to your SIEM solution as well. And even the logging is evolving, where we add some new content such as SSL ciphers and so on. But it's all in one UI. It's one big analytics platform, and you can choose between different options and can add over time from proxy and saying, oh, we have a new project where we want to save money in our smaller branch offices. We would like just to have a small router and send all traffic to Zscaler. We have a smaller team of administrators, and just one UI to configure it would be nice. So adding more features on your existing Zscaler account. That's something you might have seen before in a typical Zscaler presentations about the different controls, such as bandwidth control, sandboxing. We have about 35 billion requests a day. And so many updates are sent, and we update about 120,000 updates a day on our platform, which benefits for all users worldwide. So just some examples where we are using more than just a typical web proxy. So for example, Kelly Services, it's a fully managed service from one of our partners. They use Office 365, Skype for Business, and all kinds of things. And they just have a CPE device from the service provider pointing this just to Zscaler. Here you can see it's 650 locations. And all locations just point the traffic to Zscaler, and then they use the one-click feature, the firewall, and so on, and together with Avantec and some other partners. So we can show more examples than Kelly Services, of course. It's just an, let's say, official one in the slide deck. Mark has others to share. Yes, Siemens and AutoNation is about retail locations. It's about a lot of branch offices where in the past sending a lot of traffic, for example, at AutoNation through MPLS, or they wanted to buy 540 UTMs or firewalls for every branch, and instead of this, just using a basic forwarding device and so on. So that's typical for the VPN. As you can see, you have here on the right side your mobile device. It might be an iPhone, might be your laptop. Depending on the size of the network, you're using global load balancing to pick the nearest VPN solution. It's going through DDoS and so on. Then through an internal firewall, internal load balancer to your applications. And by the way, even the internal load balancing can be included in the Zscaler private access, as you can create several connectors and share the load, and can do load balancing to your application servers as well. But then if the application is moving from your internal network all the way up to Microsoft Azure, for example, then basically some customers build a site-to-site VPN, and the user from somewhere outside is going all the way into the office or into the data center, and then through an IPsec connection to Azure and the way back. So the question is that really the best way to access an application in Azure? If you think of security, it might be secure, but in terms of latency and so on, it's not the ideal way. If you think of Zscaler private access and you have your Zscaler app, you have the cloud, which has the logic, and you define your own access control policies for your users, and then you can install these so-called connectors. So the connectors are sitting in front of your applications. They could be in your data center or in AWS Azure. And if the Zscaler app wants to connect, or the client wants to connect to this application, we will check where's the fastest connection. And if the connection is faster in your data center, we will go to this connector. If the other connection is faster or configured that it's only allowed for this user to use the same application in Azure, then based on the policy, we can direct them. Basically, the connector and the Zscaler app do an outbound TLS tunnel, and we stitch these connections together in the cloud. So the outbound connection from Azure and the outbound connection from Zscaler app will connect somewhere and have a fast connection through Zscaler. In terms of security and so on, access control, it's based on your policy. You can add multi-factor authentication, you can add private certificates and your own certificate to authenticate the whole solution and the tunnels. On a threat prevention perspective, the users are never on the network. So it's not like typical VPN where you have an IP address in your network, and if there's no firewall in between, you can spread your malware everywhere, or you have ransomware, and as soon as you start your VPN, and you can send this through. You only are allowed to access the applications you have defined in your policy. As applications and even a VPN concentrator is not accessible from the internet, you don't need DDoS prevention for these services. So there is no VPN mycompany.com. It's just within. It's just an outbound TLS connection. On the other side, there's app discovery. There's user monitoring. So you can see, showing on this slide, what are the top users, what are the top discovered applications, and you can then configure real policy definitions about this contractor is allowed to go to this application, and the finance department is allowed to go to these applications. And here, for example, you can see all employees with this SAML attribute can go to this group of applications. As if we do a proof of concept in Zscaler Private Access, we could start with just one line saying star.mycompany.internal, all the test users are allowed to go there, and we will see more and more discovered applications, and based on the discovered applications, we can click on it and then add policy rules if you like. So there are different use cases like mergers and acquisitions, like Abbott, VPN replacements, and typical secure partner access, where we had a use case for a partner to do administration on ship engines. So there are different use cases and for the same kind of application. It's Zscaler Private Access as one part of a secure IT and network transformation. So we have lots of customers starting with a part, starting with typical proxy environments, starting with PAC files and so on, and sending us just the typical traffic. Later on, adding more and more features. But currently, I have more and more workshops with customers and partners about what about sending the default route to Zscaler? How can I have a workshop about SD-WAN? I don't want to backhaul all the traffic. What about my applications moving into the cloud? So really the third part where we, after a couple of years, have customers looking forward to move to the next step. And we don't need to go starting with transforming the full network, but it's for existing customers easy to go step by step into this direction, and using our partners and technology partners such as the SD-WAN providers to enable network transformation. So here it's just a different view on it from a user perspective. The user's on the way. He's somewhere outside the network. He has the Zscaler app installed, and he can access every single application. It doesn't matter if it's typical Google or LinkedIn or internal applications, or even with private access applications in our data center or in the cloud, such as AWS. So it's from one user, every kind of traffic is sent through Zscaler services. So Zscaler is not just a web. It's not about talking about a proxy in the cloud anymore, and not since 1 year. It's evolving over the last couple of years, and it's really about user experience, about new network technologies and replacements, and we are involved in a lot of network transformation projects. And even if a customer has just an Office 365 project, and some consultants say, okay, you need to triple your internet bandwidth and all your appliances you have on your gateway, we are involved here as well, as no one wants to have so many devices just to secure these applications. And at the end, Microsoft says, don't do SSL, just send us the traffic. We do have our best practice in Office 365, and we had a webinar, and on request we can do a workshop on this as well. We can have combined with Avantec our technical workshops, proof of concepts, and having some workshops to do the next step together with Zscaler and you. So thanks, and now I would say it's time for your questions.
Thank you very much, Florian, for the very nice speech about Zscaler. Yes, if for the audience, if you have any more questions, just please write it down in the chat window or in the question answering window. We will collect them all and try to answer them here in this webinar. I have 2 or 3 questions seen so far. I'll start with the first one, Florian. Are there any customers already using the cloud firewall, and for what use cases do they use it?
So yes, we do have more customers. One big part is Office 365, when the customer is sending all kinds of traffic, including Skype for Business on UDP and so on. So detecting applications outside of HTTP, HTTPS. And the other use case is to simplify branch offices, with basic routers or even with SD-WAN, where they send any kind of traffic to Zscaler and they want to secure more than port 8443.
Okay, thank you, Florian. I have another question. It's about SD-WAN. What partners are recommended by Zscaler? I believe there is a list on the website, but maybe you can add a few words to this question.
Yes, so there's a larger list on our website, and it's kind of some years ago, many SD-WAN vendors popped up. Some of them are from the application perspective, such as Citrix, Riverbed, and some other from the, let's say, WAN optimization market, and other new players like Velo Cloud, Viptela, and so on. We do partner with a lot of them. Main partners currently are Riverbed, Velo Cloud, and Citrix. But if you have some others, talk to Avantec and Zscaler, and we can check the list. There's, for example, a case study in configuration with Viptela, but based on the topics with Cisco, it works, but we don't know how we will interact together with Cisco in future. But it's mostly Riverbed, Citrix, Velo Cloud.
Okay, thanks, Florian. I have one more question here, so please add your questions. We're still collecting them. It's about the private access thing. So the question is about are there any customers now here in Europe or in Switzerland, and what they are using private access for? Is it just a VPN replacement, or do they do other stuff with it?
So in Switzerland, there are already customers with Zscaler Private Access, and one of my project was to simplify 3 different remote access solutions. So they use Cisco Anycast and Pulse Secure for remote for contractors. So we had different applications, and we combined it to just one solution, which is CPA now. Within Europe, there are many references like MA and Diesel, where there are 2 use cases. One is for the contractors, and the other one is with typical VPN replacement for about 5,000 users. What we do currently is working together with Microsoft and Microsoft Solution Architects on this other use case I mentioned on applications moving into the cloud. So as you can see here, securing apps, Azure, AWS. So when there is a AWS Cloud Summit, like in Berlin, Zurich, we will be partnering. We had the Microsoft Tech Summit. That's where new CPA projects are currently coming from.
So thank you very much, Florian, for answering all these questions. I haven't seen any more questions coming in. So please, if you have any more questions or coming up during the next phase, you can anytime contact Avantec. Oh, I've just heard that there is a question coming in. So we try to take it into discussion. Okay, there's a question. Do we have a plan to have a workflow for the implementation of a rule? How does manage the rule reassessment, continuous compliance? Florian, have you understood the question?
Yeah. I heard about it before, but I think that's something I need to catch up on with product management. So please send a message in your comments. I will follow up. So it's about the UI and checking, for example, the URL policy and other policies on compliance and checking if, let's say, this rule is allowed or if there's a workflow of adding rules. So what we just added a couple of months ago is an API. So you can have more and more features to configure things on Zscaler, but it's not kind of workflow in our UI currently. It's just opening our API so that you can use it internally. But I heard this request before, and I can follow up what's planned in the next 12-18 months.
Okay, perfect, Florian. I have the contact from this question, so I will send you the question again by email, and you can send me a short answer, and I will provide the people who asked the questions with your answer. There is a new question again. How do you manage CPA private access in China? Any experience so far for this, Florian?
Yes. So in China, our goal is currently to work with partners such as Microsoft. They build a Azure data center to have, let's say, the middle part. Let's say our brokers. Officially, it could work with CPA, but because it's an outbound TLS 1 or 2 connection, it's always part of, let's say, inspection of traffic on the Chinese firewall. So if currently the traffic is going from China outbound to another country, We have tested it with some of our customers. Sometimes it works, but it's kind of small, very slow. But there shouldn't be completely blocked in that way. We are planning within the next couple of months to have a clear solution based on local presence with our partner. As you might know, on Zscaler Internet Access, we have 2 big data centers, and we opened Shanghai, and we have Tianjin, which will be added more capacity. So it's all within the country. For CPA, the topic is that we need to have more of our product, let's say, within China. So it's a topic. It's not. I'm too technical to say it all works. It is currently a challenge, but we are working with operations and product management on adding, let's say, capacity and a clear solution on CPA in China.